He sang. Not for a stadium. Not for the cameras that follow him from the moment he arrives at a facility to the moment he leaves it. Not for the broadcast that carries his image into living rooms across 3 continents on the nights he takes the mound or steps into the batter's box with a game on the line. He sang for a room of people he loved. And the room, full of teammates and coaches and the people who run the organization he plays for and the one person in the world who knows him most completely, went very quiet to listen. Because in all the footage that exists of Shohei Ohtani, in all the at-bats and strikeouts and press conference answers and dugout moments that have accumulated across years of being one of the most watched athletes on the planet, there is almost none of him like this. Unguarded. Unhurried. Singing. The second child had arrived. The name had been chosen. And for one night, the Dodgers' most important player was simply a father celebrating something that no ERA or batting average or 5-for-1 trade could come close to touching. The party had been arranged with the same quiet intentionality that characterizes most things in Ohtani's life. Not large. Not the kind of event that announces itself through its scale or its guest list or the visible trappings of a celebration thrown by someone who has the resources to make any room feel like a production. The people who were there were the people who were supposed to be there, the teammates who had become something more than teammates across a season that had asked a great deal of everyone inside the Dodgers clubhouse, the staff who had been alongside him through the difficulties and the victories, the faces that a man sees every day and whose presence at a moment like this carries a different weight than any formal invitation could convey. Dave Roberts was there. The GM was there. Mamiko was there, at the center of everything, as she always is in the architecture of Ohtani's life, the presence around whom the rest of it organizes itself. And in a corner of the room that would become, by the end of the night, the corner that everyone remembered, their eldest daughter sat with the particular wide-eyed seriousness of a child who understands that something important is happening but has not yet developed the vocabulary to fully name what that importance consists of. She was about to meet her brother for the first time. The name came before the meeting. It was announced the way Ohtani announces most personal things, without ceremony, without the architecture of a formal reveal, without the kind of staged moment that transforms a private decision into a public event. Someone in the room said it. The name moved through the gathering in the way that names do when they are new and people are hearing them for the first time and trying on the sound of them against the reality of the person they now belong to. The name settled. The way right names always settle, not with fanfare but with the quiet recognition that this is what the person was going to be called, that it fits, that it was always going to be this. The teammates heard it. Roberts heard it. The GM, who had spent the preceding weeks navigating a series of roster decisions that had asked hard things of the organization and the people inside it, stood in a room where none of that existed for a few hours and heard the name of Ohtani's son for the first time. He did not reach for baseball language. There was no baseball language available for this moment. The gifts had not been expected. Not in the sense that the people bringing them had not planned to bring them, they had, of course, because these were people who understood what the occasion meant and had given real thought to how to mark it. But the nature of what Roberts and the GM had arranged went beyond the standard expression of congratulation that flows from an organization to a player when his family expands. What they brought was specific. Personal. Calibrated to the particular reality of who Ohtani is in a way that required knowing him, not the baseball version of him, not the statistical version, not the two-way player version that gets discussed in the analytical frameworks of a sport trying to develop vocabulary for something it has never fully seen before. The version of him that shows up for his family. Roberts, when someone near him asked later what he had been thinking when he chose the gift, did not give a long answer. He said, "You watch someone compete the way Shohei competes, and after a while you understand that the reason he competes that way is because of what he's competing for. The field is one part of it. What was in that room tonight is the other part." He paused. The gift felt like the right way to say we see both parts. The teammates had arrived in the particular way that teammates arrive at things that exist outside the normal structure of a baseball season. Slightly uncertain, initially, about the right register, about how to be in a room that is neither a clubhouse nor a game, where the usual language of competition and preparation and post-game analysis has been set aside and replaced with something that requires a different kind of presence. Baseball players are practiced in the rituals of their specific world. The warm-up routine. The batting practice cadence. The post-game decompress. These are known territories with known rules. A celebration of new life, in a room decorated for it, with a baby somewhere nearby whose name had just been announced, this required something else. They found it. Not loudly. Not through the performed warmth of people trying to be appropriate for the occasion. Through the genuine ease that develops between people who have spent months in daily proximity, who have competed through difficulty together, who have sat in a clubhouse that was tested and held. Someone made a joke. Ohtani laughed. The uncertainty dissolved. And then, at some point in the middle of the evening, at a moment that nobody had planned for and nobody had requested, Ohtani began to sing. The song he chose has not been reported in full detail. What has been described by the people who were in the room is the experience of hearing it, the specific quality of a voice that most of them had only ever heard in the context of competition, of press conferences, of the professional vocabulary of a man who measures his public words with great care. This voice was different. Not technically different. Not trained or performed or shaped by any awareness of being observed. Simply the voice of a man singing for the people in front of him, in a room where his son had just received his name and his daughter was about to see her brother for the first time and his wife was watching him with the particular expression of someone who has seen this version of him many times and has never tired of it. The room went quiet without anyone asking it to. Teammates who had been in the middle of conversations let them trail off. Roberts, standing near the back of the room, did not move. The GM, who has spent a career around professional athletes and has learned to calibrate his reactions carefully, has since described the moment as one of the most unexpectedly affecting things he witnessed across the entirety of that season. He said, "I've watched him do things on a baseball field that I will remember for the rest of my life. But that room, that song, that was something else entirely." He did not elaborate further. He did not need to. Mamiko watched him sing. The specific detail of her watching, of what her expression contained in those minutes, of how she held the evening's accumulation of emotion while also being the person most present in it, is not something that has been described in public beyond fragments. She is, by inclination and by the mutual understanding of a couple who has navigated extraordinary public attention with extraordinary private discipline, someone who exists in the coverage of Ohtani's life primarily through her absence from it. She is there. She is central. She is the reason, in the accounting of the people who know Ohtani well, that so much of what he does on the field is possible. And on this night, in this room, she was simply watching her husband sing. The eldest daughter's meeting with her brother happened later in the evening. The adults in the room, the teammates, the coaches, the GM, Roberts, made space for it in the instinctive way that adults make space for children at the moments that belong to them. The conversations quieted. The attention shifted. She approached carefully. The seriousness that had been on her face since the party began, the wide-eyed, unreadable gravity of a child processing something large, did not immediately dissolve. She looked at her brother with the particular focus of someone conducting a genuine assessment, taking in the information available and forming a view that was her own. And then, slowly, something in her expression changed. The people who were watching have described it differently. Some said she smiled, some said she simply relaxed, some said there was a sound, soft and brief, that might have been the beginning of a word she had not yet decided to say out loud. Whatever it was enough. The room felt it. Roberts felt it. Ohtani, watching from nearby, felt it in the way that parents feel the moments between their children, with the full weight of understanding what they are witnessing and the simultaneous inability to fully contain what that understanding produces. The party ended the way right parties end. Not abruptly. Not with announcements or formal conclusions. It dissolved gradually, the way evenings do when they have been good enough that nobody wants to be the first to acknowledge that they are over. People said their goodbyes slowly. The room emptied in stages. The name, by the time the last guest left, had already begun to feel like it had always existed. Because that is what right names do. They arrive and immediately make the time before them feel incomplete, as if the world was always going to organize itself around this person, this name, this night in a room full of people who came from a baseball season and found something that had nothing to do with baseball and everything to do with why baseball, or anything else worth competing for, matters at all. Ohtani had sung. The room had listened. His son had a name. And his daughter had looked at her brother for the first time and decided, in the wordless accounting of a child, that she approved. That was the whole of it. That was enough.